and they don't know the team. I personally thought Virginia would be able to handle that easily because they play them just fine all the time. Didn't work out for them, though. I don't know. Shocking.
I think the biggest thing for me is we finally started to have some really competitive games over the weekend. That Kansas-Villanova game was probably one of the better games of the weekend. Obviously, Notre Dame-Wisconsin came down to the last 19 seconds. We kind of had a frustrating end to that one. But I think just overall, the weekend in general, it has really, this weekend as well as the other games that we had, has definitely lived up to March Madness. We've had our upsets, and now we're kind of starting to see the Final Four start to really come together and shape up, obviously.
Sure, the Thursday and Friday games were a little lackluster. Started off with some blowouts, but once we got into the Elite Eight, it got much better. So moving on, who do you see as the favorite in the Final Four?
I mean, if I had to pick a team, I have Oklahoma in my bracket going to the championship game. Buddy Hield has been one of the best college basketball players. He absolutely took over this weekend. He had huge games. He had like a 20-point half. I mean, I think he is the best player remaining in the tournament, and I really expect Oklahoma to really ride that out. They have the complementary pieces to go along with Buddy Hield, so I think that's the team to look out for, and that is my championship pick going forward in the Final Four.
It's amazing how they can key on one player, but he still burns them.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's crazy.
And he's just making shots that you just have to throw your hands up sometimes, and they're like, oh, well, that's all you can do.
Buddy Hield does seem like he has limitless range, but I'm going to go with a different team. I think the North Carolina Tar Heels, Bryce Johnson, the gang, they continue to impress. I believe they're the favorites now. I had Kansas, but they played the worst game I've seen them play all year against Villanova. Still almost won the game. I think they were the better team, but I have to go with North Carolina now. I have them in my bracket as well in the championship game, so I'm going to stick with them.
I'm going to agree with Cole on that one. I think everybody's brackets are pretty much messed up at this point with the way March Madness has went, so I'm with North Carolina as well.
One thing I just wanted to bring up, too, is obviously none of us mentioned Villanova, but they've really surprised a lot of people. They're one of those teams that always tends to get a high seed. They're one of those teams that, kind of has the pedigree, always seems to make the tournament, high seed, kind of falls on their face, doesn't really succeed. But this year they've really kind of stepped it up. They have Ochefu in the middle, your big body. Every single team that makes it far needs to have a big guy that can really change the pace for you and slow the game down when you need to. And they also have the guard play to kind of complement that. Arcidiacono, I think is how you pronounce his name, has just been hitting shot after shot. When game gets to crunch time, when it comes to making free throws, he knows how to get open, he knows how to get to the basketball, and he hit a bunch of clutch free throws against Kansas. So I think that's, they're a team that not a lot of people buy right now. They're definitely a dangerous team. They beat Kansas. They beat some good teams on their way to the Final Four. So I think they're a team that could, still make things difficult.
I think that may be partly because of the resurgence of the Big East, the new Big East, I should say, with teams like Xavier and Seton Hall pushing them all year. I think it's been great for having them battle-tested early and often, and I think that's what really helped them to beat teams like Kansas and make their way to the Final Four. And I think they definitely have a chance at moving on.
Yeah, and it was crazy to see that they were literally one of the last teams in. A lot of people thought that they shouldn't have been in, but getting a team from the ACC in rather than one of those mid-major conferences, it shows that those teams can win in the tournament. So we'll move on. We'll talk about that Wisconsin game that Logan mentioned. The tears have been falling all weekend for Badger fans.
It's been rough.
But Wisconsin-Notre Dame, it was a coin toss pretty much in Vegas. A lot of people saw it. What did you guys think of that game? Lindsay?
I think they were kind of banking on the ending of the game again. I mean, they were leading the first half, and then at the end they just kind of blew it. They were not doing very well, and then at the end they kind of went for that three-pointer again, and I don't think it turned out the way they had hoped. So
I think the Badgers were the better team. They kind of choked it away. You hate to say it, but that's what happened. They looked like the better team for the majority of the game. Also, a little bit of foul trouble for Happ, and it just went haywire from there. That's about all you can say about that.
I'm glad you brought that up. I think Hap being in foul trouble was probably one of the bigger keys. But there's a lot of things you can look to in this basketball game of why the Badgers lost. If you go on Facebook, you go on social media after the game, you look and people are complaining about officiating. It's 2016. Can we stop saying pay the refs? Like, you sound like an idiot when you say that. That just really frustrates me. And you don't have the refs to blame in this game. Wisconsin has to look at themselves for this one. You went in the first half. Notre Dame missed 14 straight shots, and you only go into halftime with a 4-point lead. You definitely have to look at that as why you collapsed and why you choked it away at the end.
Yep, thanks for admitting your fault there, Badger fans. You can speak for all of them. The other big game of the weekend was Syracuse-Virginia. Virginia was up, 15 points at half, and Syracuse changed things up. Boeheim in the locker room, he changed to a press that really pressured Virginia, and Syracuse was able to come back and win the game. So what did you guys think of that one?
I gotta be honest, was having Easter dinner with my family, and we kind of had the game on in the background. We were playing categories or some board game, and just kind of had it on. We were, watching it. Oh man, Syracuse has totally outmatched this game. Oh man, it's a 10-point game. Got to look out. Okay, here's the press. Syracuse took the lead. Then we kind of stopped playing the game and just started watching the basketball game. The big thing for me is when a team like Syracuse is able to get into the tournament, we've talked about them probably not being there in the first place, but a team like Syracuse who's able to put that zone out there and is able to put the press on teams who, they see it a little bit, but Syracuse is long, they're lengthy, they've got some big dudes out there that can really kind of push you around and bully you. If you're not able to work the ball inside into the middle on Syracuse, you're going to have a rough time because that's what opens up the open looks. Virginia made some early, went absolutely sub-zero cold the second half, and just weren't able to make any shots. They looked out of place offensively, and I think anytime a team goes up against a zone that they really don't see that Syracuse brings out, you're going to have a really rough time.
Yeah, I turned the game off at one point. I thought the game was over. All of a sudden, I got an alert saying it was a close game, so I turned it back on. I was absolutely shocked. You think about what Syracuse has been through all year this year with the Jim Boeheim situation where he was suspended for a set of games and they were just completely struggling. Like I said before, didn't even think they should make the tournament. But when they get that defense and then Virginia, when they were pressing them, they really struggled. And hats off to Syracuse.
Okay, so I guess we already talked about who we have as the champion, but looking back at the tournament as a whole, obviously not over yet, but what was one thing that stood out to you that maybe impressed you, maybe you were upset with? Just your reactions from this year's tournament.
Well, I really do think it lived up to the hype of what we expect in a Final Four. We had our upsets. The one thing that definitely does stick out to me, though, is Michigan State is a team that I think everyone probably had locked in their Elite Eight, Final Four, championship game. I had them in my championship. I thought they had the best player in the country. I thought Valentine was going to be enough. Costello was a good complementary player to him. To be able to take them all the way. I mean, they have the coach, they have the players, but, I mean, you run into mid-Tennessee State who couldn't name a player on their team at all.
Darnell Harris.
They have to win. Thanks. They have to win their conference championship to get in, and it's just I thought that was spectacular. And then, of course, after they win, they start talking a whole bunch of junk about how you have to look out for us, and then they go and lose to Syracuse. So.
Yeah, I would say just Buddy Hield in general. He's putting up numbers. I think he's second most points through 4 games in the tournament, other than Steph Curry, which Steph Curry.
Don't remind me. The Badgers played against him in that tournament. That was awful.
2 words, Buddy Hield.
I just think in general with March Madness, you never really know. Everybody makes their brackets and stuff like that. And I think with just different coach changes and different teammates and people leaving and stuff like that, I think it's just kind of up in the air depending on who will win and who will not win, I guess.
I think this year, just like any other year, it's the coaching. If you look at the coaches that are in the Final Four, they get their teams over that hump and they make adjustments that they need to. We saw Boeheim do that here in the Elite Eight. But that'll do it for our March Madness talk. Coming up next on Sports Talk Live, we'll talk a little baseball and a little football. But first, a look at those perfect pets.
I'm Zeus, a 1-year-old American Bulldog mix. I'm very handsome, outgoing, and social. I look tough, but I love to snuggle.
Hi, I'm Rita. I am an easygoing, gentle old lady looking for a quiet, forever home. Hi, I'm Chevy. I'm a 2-year-old Shepherd Pit mix. I'm outgoing and would love to be your running partner.
I'm Lizzie, a 10-year-old energetic beagle, and I love to play with my toys. I can't wait to have a new family.
To find out more about adoption for these pets or others, contact the Cooley Region Humane Society at 781-4014.
Again, the number for the Cooley Region Humane Society is 781-4014. So, baseball opening day is coming up, spring training just about wrapping up. We're excited. I know I am, and you guys are as well. What do you guys see coming up in the Major League season?
I'll tell you what, spring training, one of my most favorite times of the year. Gets warmer, flowers blooming, birds chirping, nothing better. I'll be sitting on my couch, bag of sunflower seeds, just enjoying myself. I'm really excited. I personally think the Chicago Cubs this is the year. I know people say that every year, but this year, the talent they have, a lot of the younger guys got experience last year. They brought in veterans like Jason Hayward and Ben Zobrist, pitcher John Lackey. They have tremendous talent. Bringing back the Cy Young Award winner Jake Arrieta. I think the Cubs have a special team this year. I think they stopped the San Francisco Giants from winning on every even number year.
Let me be the first member of the Brewers community to congratulate you, sir, on your eventual playoff berth. I don't know if they win it all. I mean, they obviously have the talent. They went to the playoffs last year. They had a rough go against the Mets. I do think they are one of the best teams in baseball. But as far as Brewers fans, I know it's tough. It's going to be a rough year, but just embrace the change. Embrace the fact that the team is admitting that they're going to completely restart and rebuild. Their prospects are fantastic. They're top 10, maybe even top 5 for their prospects. They've got a bunch of young guys coming up. Villar, Arcia, 2 young guys in the middle infield who are going to be big. And I'm actually really excited for this season, even though they're not going to be very good.
Yeah.
I think they're going to have a tough start in April. I was seeing the first 16 games, a lot of playoff contenders that they're going to be going against. So it's going to be a little rough, but I think that I'm going to stick it out and be a Brewers fan till the end as well.
Absolutely.
It's just so hard with baseball how a team can get hot at the end of the season, and that's what it is. We saw Kansas City do that last year. It's luck is what it is. So we'll move on to the NFL free agency. Talk a little Packers as well as we can mix in some other teams. Let's go.
Murphy, it happened.
Yep,
it finally
it
happened. The Packers did something in free agency. I can't believe it. Jared Cook, tight end, big, athletic, fits a need. I mean, it's okay to go out in free agency and sign guys. You don't have to get the star. You don't have to get the number 1 guy at the position. But if you sign guys that help your team, I don't know why you don't do that more. Jared Cook is going to be a huge boon to this offense that struggled all year. I'm really excited to see him implemented.
If you saw the Packers win that Super Bowl, a lot of it had to do with Jermichael Finley.
He was a huge key.
I know there are a lot of people who were saying they were trying to, that he doesn't have to be him and he doesn't have to play like him and stuff like that, that he is his own player and stuff like that. And I think he's going to be a great contributor to the Packer team.
Yeah, I think it's great to finally see the Packers do something. I think Jared Cook has been a wasted talent in St. Louis. The day he was actually released, I said something to my roommate. I said, I think that'd be a good pickup for the Packers. I think he's been a wasted talent. He's had terrible quarterbacks.
No quarterbacks at all.
Sam Bradford, Nick Foles. Sam Bradford was never even healthy. I think Aaron Rodgers could be a great boost for Jared Cook, and I might have to pick him up in fantasy this year.
Yeah, sleeper.
Yeah, so we'll see probably more free agency coming in the next couple weeks. Mm-hmm. But we respect the women here too on WMCM. So we'll talk a little women's college basketball. The Final Four was set just yesterday. Talk a little bit about UConn, their dominance. A lot of people are talking about how it's bad for the sport. What do you guys think?
Yeah, earlier, actually over the weekend, there was an article written about how UConn's dominance was bad for for college basketball and women's college basketball, but you can't say that. I mean, we're witnessing a dynasty that we've never seen in sports before. I mean, you just have to respect what's going on. Completely blowing teams out. They always get the best girls in there for recruiting. I don't care. I like it. I like seeing a team dominate. If you don't like it, do something to stop them.
Or don't watch, I guess. I mean, a 72-game winning streak is pretty awesome, and to possibly win 4 championships is amazing. And I only worry that maybe when they stop winning that something might happen. But for now, I think it's awesome. Good for them.
I totally agree. I personally think it's good for the sport, especially when you have all those young girls that might be watching and might be inspiring to them. A team like UConn, I haven't watched a lot of girls basketball in my life, but it's kind of fun to watch UConn women's basketball. The way they move the ball, they have great players they have the best player at every position in the country.
Yep.
They could probably be competitive in the WNBA. Like, they probably wouldn't finish last in the WNBA, which you can't say about any college basketball team in men's basketball in the NBA. I really enjoy watching them, and I think there's no doubt they absolutely cruise to a championship.
And just think of like the things that we talked about. We talked about viewership, like watching them. If they weren't as dominant as they were, and if they weren't winning all of these games that they were, what other excuse would you honestly have to watch women's basketball right now? They're the most interesting thing about women's basketball, and I hope they keep winning. I hope they keep it up.
Gino Auriemma, he's the man.
He is. I mean, he recruits. He is the best coach.
Okay, we'll
take anything away
shift
from
our focus to the ice. A little NHL end of the season. Moving towards the playoffs, what do you guys think about the NHL?
I'm really excited. I rank NHL playoffs right under NFL playoffs as far as excitement level. You get the beards going. You can start growing those out again. One interesting thing, though, and we talked about this a little bit before the show started, the Detroit Red Wings are on the cusp of missing the playoffs. They're currently out of the wild card in the Eastern Conference. They've made the playoffs every year for 26 years, I think. So that's going to be an interesting thing to look at for the playoffs.
Yeah, definitely interesting. It would be very strange not to see the Red Wings in the playoff. It's the longest playoff streak in North America. They're battling pretty much with the Philadelphia Flyers, who won a game with, it was, I believe, 14 seconds left in overtime last night. 3-on-3 overtime has been an absolute joy to watch this year. I can't wait to watch it in the playoffs and the Stanley Cup. It's going to be very exciting. I love the Stanley Cup. I think it's one of the most exciting playoffs, as you said, and I'm ready for it.
I like the LA Kings. I think Jonathan Quick at goalie, he just is the difference maker there. They've kind of been switching off with the Blackhawks, who's going to win the title, whoever comes out of the Western Conference.
And, you know, the Blackhawks have had a little adversity this year, the Kings obviously, and the thing it really comes down to is goaltending. If you have a goaltender that can carry you all the way through, you're going to be successful. I like the Canadiens this year. Price is a fantastic goalie. I like the Sharks this year. Thornton is, I think, finally ready to get this team going and not have a first-round exit again. The Sharks always have a really competitive team, and they always seem to have a first-round exit, but hopefully that changes a little bit. I kind of like the Sharks.
It'll be fun to watch.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
It's always entertaining.
Okay, we'll move on from the ice to back to the gridiron. We'll talk a little bit about concussions in football. A lot of statistics, a lot of research going into seeing what's going on with collisions in football, whether or not the helmets are to the standard they need to be. What do you guys think about that?
Some people confirm that it is linked with brain damage and stuff like that, and football players are linking it. Some are not. At this point, I feel like you can basically have your own opinion on it, just with all the statistics and stuff going around. But I think there's always room for improvement for equipment and helmets and stuff like that.
Yeah, I definitely think it's a major concern in the NFL. Player safety is very important. I think Roger Goodell tries to do his best to enforce player safety, which sometimes he gets a bad rap for, as he's basically taking kickoffs away nowadays, which is a lot of times was the most exciting plays of the game. I think player safety is obviously very important. You see a lot of past players struggling a lot with head injuries and just injuries in general, and it's really difficult to see, as a lot of times you look up to these guys growing up, and I think it's definitely something that needs to be looked into more.
What is it with NFL owners talking about stuff that they shouldn't talk about at all? Jerry Jones talking about CTE. Jim Irsay came out earlier this week and was talking about that stuff. It may have been today, actually. Was talking about CTE and injuries and saying you could have head issues and health issues from taking too much aspirin. Just stop. You know that guys playing football are killing themselves for our enjoyment. I don't know why we have to skirt around the issue. A lot of guys die from what they're doing. But just let me put this in a language you'll understand, Jerry. Don't talk about head injuries in football when you don't know what the real story is, Jerry. All right, that ought to do it.
Well, we'll see more developments with that in the future. One thing that I think is football is a dangerous sport, but if you look at sports like hockey,
just as dangerous.
Lacrosse is even
absolutely.
an extremely dangerous sport.
Boxing, I know, too, they added in that
Yep.
one is a big one.
UFC as well. I mean, they're choking each other out.
Guys don't have careers once they're past like 33 in boxing, so it's...
Okay, so that'll do it for the talk about the concussions. On the other side of the break, we'll talk a little bit about UWL athletics. But first, here's a look at some of our WMCM sports shows.
Introducing WMCM's newest sports show, Hot Shot Sports. It's got games, memes, highlights, gifts, and everything else that you'd ever want from a sports show, like everything current from social media and all other sports action. So tune in to Charter Channel 989 and Campus Channel 6 for some Hot Shot Sports.
Do you need better opinions on the biggest sports stories? Then you need Sports Talk Live. They cover all sports all the time. From track and field, to soccer, to football, gymnastics, and just about everything in between. Sports Talk Live is your place for sports. Sports Talk Live, Tuesdays on WMCM-TV.
Welcome back to Sports Talk Live. We're here in the final stretch of the show, and we'll bring it home, talk about some UWL athletics. We'll start with the tennis team. What do you guys think about the tennis team?
Tennis team, shout out to Joey Schneider. They started off the year a little rough, but they just over spring break they had a trip down to Florida where they won 4 of their 5 matches, which is very good for them. I wish them nothing but the best in the rest of their season.
They had a 9-0 victory at their home opener, which is pretty exciting. A lot of the guys did very, very well. I wish them the best, I guess.
Yeah. What are some of the other sports here at UWL that you guys are excited for this spring?
Obviously baseball. I mean, we're one of the, that's probably the, along with track and field, one of the best sports we have. And shout out to basketball, too. They had a great season. Mm-hmm. But can't wait. Baseball comes around. You start to see the snow melt, and it's time to talk baseball. They've started playing games in Florida, I believe, and have been pretty successful down there. So, personally, I can't wait to start calling baseball games on RAQ Radio, so make sure to listen to that.
I'm excited to watch softball. The softball team went on a trip to Arizona as well. Got some sun there, but they start today. I believe they're playing right now, a doubleheader against Viterbo. But you talked a little bit about track and field. Our women's track and field coach, Pat Healy, he just announced that he'll retire at the end of the outdoor season. Talk a little bit about his illustrious career here at UWL.
Yeah, I'm actually lucky enough to have Pat Healy as a professor right now. It's sad in a way, but it's also good to see that he's passing on the torch. He's had an absolutely tremendous run as the UWL women's track coach. The entire track program has been phenomenal, winning national titles back to back, I think. Mm-hmm. And it's just great to see Pat Healy, great coach, and I wish him the best in his future.
I'm also in Cole's class, and he is amazing at teaching it. I mean, the past 25 years that he's been here, I think they won 14 out of 17 conference titles with him as the coach, which is awesome, and he had a great, great run, so he will be missed.
The one thing I've always noticed with Pat was, even with all the success that he's had as a head coach, and, you don't always get this at a lot of places, he's extremely successful, national championships, he's one of the most approachable guys that you can go up and talk to. So shout out to Pat. We appreciate everything you've done for the university, track and field, and we just wish him the best going forward.
Under his tenure, the UWL women's track and field team, they finished in the top 10 40 out of 49 national tournament appearances,
Incredible.
indoor and outdoor. Just crazy statistic there. So we'll talk a little bit about the Bucks now. It just announced today that Jason Kidd, Bucks coach, announced that Giannis, I'm not going to try to say his last name.
Antetokounmpo.
He was announced as he'll be starting at point guard next year.
I'm jacked up. Like, this is extremely exciting. Now, I mean, you could talk about who is he going to defend, what are they going to do, how are they going to address point guard. Let's not think about that right now. Like, Giannis has been a walking triple-double for the better part of, I don't know, since the All-Star break. It actually gives you something to watch with this team. They only have 30 wins. They've kind of, I don't know, not gone up to a lot of people's expectations with this team, but Giannis at point guard, he's an absolutely amazing playmaker, can get to the rack, and now I think what they need to do is, if they're going to start Giannis at point guard, find out what you're going to do, because he's not going to be able to guard other teams' point guards. Find a point guard that can actually spread the floor, so that way when Giannis does drive, there's at least someone to kick him to get some open threes. One of the worst three-point shooting basketball teams in the entire league this year, so hopefully shifting Giannis over to point guard will start to open some stuff up for other guys.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think Giannis is an absolutely special talent. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I think he has the potential to be one of the best players in the NBA. Him and Jabari Parker have started with some chemistry this second half of the year. If Jabari Parker can keep it up, they got Chris Middleton, they've got some other pieces. Greg Monroe is a good offensive player. They get someone decent in the draft because they've been struggling this year. I think this team could be a lot better and maybe become closer to the expectations that people had for him this year. And I think it's a great fit at point guard with Giannis.
The thing that I look forward to with these moves is, I think that by saying this, it's kind of a hint that, hey guys, we're probably going to make some moves this offseason to make this work. So I really do expect MCW to probably a name to be mentioned. I really do think Greg Monroe is a name that's also going to be mentioned as well. For this thing to work, for the defense to be like it was last year in the playoff season, you need a defensive center. Greg Monroe is not that. So I think I'd be interested to see what happens there.
Team like Milwaukee, they have to build through the draft.
Yep.
It's tough free agency. So it's rant time. We'll do some rants here on Sports Talk Live. We'll start at the end here. We'll start with Lindsay.
I am going to rant about, I'm going to kind of hope that Syracuse wins for March Madness. I'm going to push for them. I mean, nobody expected them to get this far, let alone make it at all. So I'm going to push for them to win and vote for them.
Go Orange.
I think I'm going to rant against the San Francisco Giants. I'm so sick of them winning the World Series every other year. I used to not mind the Giants. I'm pretty sure the first time they won it, I was actually cheering for them. But it's so annoying.
It's an even year.
Can you guys just stop winning the World Series? You're one of, I don't even like one of the teams I don't like anymore, and I'm sick of it.
Yeah, it's an even year, man. That means that they're going to win it again. My big thing is guys who are out of the league and who have been out of the league for a long time criticizing players right now having success. Steph Curry has been the target of a lot of older players saying how he would never do what he's doing in when I used to play. It's ridiculous. Same thing, Carlos Gomez hit a home run yesterday and dabbed after he hit a home run, and people, like old players, are sending him tweets like, it's bad for the game. Will you people just shut up and let guys have fun? No wonder why no one watches baseball anymore.
Calm down.
I'm frustrated.
So that'll just about do it here on Sports Talk Live. For Murphy Shannon, Lindsay Zest, Cole Zergel, and Logan Beatty.
Got it.
Tune in next week. We'll be right back here on, I don't know what channel it is. You do.
Charter.
See
you guys next time.
say this season has been ups and downs, right?
Yes. Like I said before, we were struggling with consistency and really being able to always communicate together on the court. Something we found, like specifically volleyball-wise, it was like when we played really good teams, we had the talent and we could compete with those teams and really like beat them or at least stay competitive against them. And then we would play the not so good teams and then we'd kind of sink to their level and not communicate as much and trying to overcome that and always playing at one level, always playing consistently at the level that we know we can play at. And like we've stated, just having new girls, trying to get that connectedness, it's been a work in progress, but in the past 2 months we've come a long way.
And a big part of the ups and downs we were talking about is how people like to be motivated on and off the court. I don't think we were communicating as well as we could have been. You know, if we had a bad game, how did girls want to be talked to about it, or how did they respond? And as soon as we really all came together and said, hey, this is how I want to be talked to, or this is how I'm motivated, is when we could really refocus and start to play more consistently.
I would agree. We were, like what Katie mentioned earlier, we had to work majorly on consistency. That was our biggest issue during a preseason, and that was just working out with the team, figuring out new rotations, what's comfortable with people, what are they used to as far as like defense and offense and whatnot. So just kind of, we had to start from basics, I would say, but we built up from there, and now I can honestly say that we're a consistent team, finally.
What's going right for this team right now?
Well, for the A team, I would say that we are really comfortable with each other on the court. We're able to motivate people. Sometimes one person wants to be built up and told, like, great job, you got the next one, or another person's like, you did this wrong, this is how you need to fix it, and that'll motivate them, and knowing the difference, like Maddie said. And also just being able to critique other people and know that we can trust each other and not be upset by it.
Yeah, and you know, one thing we pride ourselves on at club volleyball is we don't have a coach. Some clubs do, and we don't. And it's really hard, I would say, especially for girls, you know, we struggle or have struggled with just having one authority figure. But I think we do very well having control throughout the entire club. We have captains, and each team has captains, and we have a president, but everybody definitely has a say, whether it's in drills or whether it's in the games. So we don't feel like we're kind of being dictated around by a coach.
I was just gonna ask about not having a coach. Can you elaborate a little more on what it is like to have a team but not have like a coach there?
I think one, it is challenging, it is hard, but at the same time there's so much freedom to do and focus on what you truly think is best for your team, and it's kind of like a collaborative decision that you make, which is really nice versus someone telling you what's wrong. You kind of get to talk it out with your team and actually figure out, okay, well, what's actually wrong with our plays, what's wrong with our like defense or everything like that. So it's actually kind of nice having that opportunity to do that. It is kind of nice too, I think, just because we can collaborate with A team as well. I think we have a lot better connection between the two teams this year. So if we ever do need help with something, we have a whole other team to rely on.
And I think it kind of diminishes maybe that internal struggle of I need to get playing time, so I need to be better than my teammates. You know, everybody, for the most part, gets equal playing time, and if there's not really a problem if somebody needs to come out for another person, they don't think, oh, I'm going to be benched for the rest of the season. It's really open communication in that way, and I think it's good for the internal memory of the game.
And as a president, one of the presidents of the team, we always say it's like we're going to put people on the court that want to be on the court, who's going to work hard. So I know people will get mad at you because you're kind of technically the one calling the final shots. But at the end of the day, it's like, if you're not going to put the work in, why do you deserve to play over someone else? So we definitely kind of make it's a personal thing. So you can't be mad at me if you aren't happy with something. Like, you have to look at yourself for that.
Specifically for you being a president, what are some of your duties as a president of an organization like this?
Well, we have a club account, like financials and an email, and keeping up with all the tournaments that we set up and setting up with drivers and making the teams at the beginning of the season. There's a lot of paperwork and like going to nationals. We have to get van rentals, but I have a co-president and we also have a treasurer. So the work is definitely split up pretty well. And It's mainly just paperwork, really. It's like more behind the scenes stuff.
All right, so I just want to talk a little bit about, club sports. What has each one have been your experiences with club sports? Or did you come into college knowing that you wanted to play on the club volleyball team, things like that? Or was it just something that you thought about trying out and ended up falling in love with?
Personally or in general?
Either one. Doesn't matter.
Okay, well for me personally, I looked at playing on the Eau Claire team. I looked a little bit at playing on the UWL team, and then they had a shift of coaches, so I kind of just gave up on that. It wasn't a real passion of mine. I need to do this. But I knew, from the get-go, I emailed the current president, who was president in 2012, and I said, I'd love to be on the team. What can I do? And they said, we have open gyms, ... And so I started coming to the open gyms and got to know the people before tryouts, so I didn't just show up on the day of tryouts and hope to get a spot. I kind of got a feel for who was going to be there, got a feel for who the players were last year, and I came back and tried out all 4 years, so it was a good experience.
I actually tried out for the varsity team, and it didn't work out, and I was kind of relieved because it's a lot of time, it's a big commitment, and I wasn't ready to commit to something like that. And then as school started, I realized I really missed volleyball and decided to look at club, and overall it has been the best decision I've ever made. I get to stay in the sport competitively. I tried intramurals and hated it because I had to play with people that didn't know the game very well, so I was like, no, this isn't for me. Where now I still get to have the game in my life, play competitively, and have time to focus on school as well. So it's been a good, well-rounded experience for me, and being able to do it throughout college has been awesome. I love it.
And for me, I was a transfer student my sophomore year, and I missed my opportunity to play club my freshman year. I went to Mankato State. So coming here, I knew I wanted to play. I just didn't know how or where to go. So I emailed Holly at the time was president, and I was like, hey, I need to play volleyball because it's like, I love it too much. And I showed up to an open gym, and ever since then, I've just been coming back, and it worked out pretty well for me, I think.
Yeah, but there's definitely a variety of girls who are like, yes, I'm going to play club, or some people just show up the day of tryout and be like, let's see if this is fun. So, yeah, definitely a wide variety of people who join.
Would you recommend the club sports as something that everyone who's had past experience with sports should try, at least give it a shot, try out?
I definitely think so, just because, knowing me, playing competitive all year round for however many years, all through high school, just stopping it instantly when coming to college, you kind of feel like, well, this is boring. Like, what am I supposed to do for fun? And it's like, okay, well, I knew volleyball for me, if it's basketball for somebody else, I don't know, it's a way that you can still be competitive, have fun, and it's kind of a de-stress too from your everyday crazy life. So
for someone who's used to being involved in extracurriculars, just coming into college with nothing, yeah, you definitely have a lot of time on your hands. And doing volleyball, it kept me exercising, it kept me on a regular schedule, it kept me balanced. I knew I had to figure out how to balance new friends, new sport, school. And that's the aspect I really liked most about it.
Yeah, it's a time commitment, but nothing compared to if you were on the varsity school team. And if you love a sport and want to be able to play at that competitive level still, club is the best option for you. I tell a lot of high school kids that I coach, if they aren't thinking that they can do the college varsity, club is a great alternative.
I think that'll do it. Thank you very
Awesome.
much.
Thank you.